The 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix just took place. The race was kind of boring, but it gave us a lot of interesting insights, so we're gonna dive into that. And let's go through how each of the driver and team has performed, starting with the worst performers of the main race, ending with the highest scorers of the Grand Prix weekend. Our first team is Alpine. And I think I mentioned this in the previous race analysis, the Monza video, that I am sick and tired of seeing Alpine pop up first every single time because I do it in an increasing order, in the order of points, right? And Alpine usually has the worst result in most of the races in 2025. So it's kind of annoying, and I don't really like Pierre Gasly, a driver of his caliber, like repeatedly in this situation. And this race basically for both of the drivers was just disappointing on top of disappointing, especially for Franco Colapinto, because Pierre, in order to try to extract a bit more performance, went off wide sometime in Q1, and like a few seconds later Franco Colapinto crashed into the wall nearby trying to do the same thing, extract a bit of performance out of the car that is not there. And in the race, these guys were nowhere, literally at the back of the grid. They finished 18th and 19th, literally at the back of the grid, dead last. There's really nothing to analyze because there was nothing to see. And in motorsports, you have to give some analysis which is relative. And in these guys' condition, there is no relative thing because they're so dead last and far behind. There's nothing much to talk about. We move on. Aston Martin. Now the thing about Aston Martin is that their car is good in like slow corners, high radius and high traction zone, those type of things, like small radius, not high radius. High radius means fast corners. So this was a race where theoretically in sector 2 they should be fast, but their straight line speed is absolutely horrible for some reason. And additionally, the layout of the track along with the wind makes their package a lot more unstable. So for that also they suffered a lot. Kind of like Sauber, these guys, when the track condition is windy and changes from 1 second to another, they seem to be suffering with balance issues. And the car was stable more or less, but they really didn't have much of pace. And Fernando Alonso explained in the post-race interview that out of the remaining races they won't be as competitive like as they were in some other races. In Mexico, that's one race he mentioned, and he mentioned some other venue, I think Vegas. So Mexico and Vegas, these are the two places, I think, cooler temperatures. I think primarily these are the reasons why Aston Martin will struggle, but in the remaining of the races they will be a little bit more competitive. Baku, because of the low temperature since the last couple of days in Azerbaijan, Baku, uh, that's why they suffered because of the temperature issues, but also the layout of the track. Despite there were a lot of corners that should suit the Aston Martin, but not enough. And there's a lot of huge straight, and in between the corners there there are straights really, and it's a bumpy track. So these guys are having their issues. Nothing much to say again because of the lack of the competitiveness. Fernando Alonso looked like he could go and challenge for the points, but unfortunately, due to his 5 second time penalty, because he jumped the start by looking at Piastri, like everything just went out of the window. And also, even if he didn't have that, he started P11. Making an overtake is a bitch and a half. Now, I know that Fernando is Fernando, and he definitely was looking like he could do something, but after that penalty, like, there was literally zero hope. We move on. Haas. Now the thing about Haas is that they were nowhere in the qualifying session. I was a little bit hopeful that these guys will pull a result because if you look at the overall result of the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, all of the shit teams are nowhere, right? All of the teams that usually are slow couldn't score any points. Like if you look at the teams that did not score any points, which are Sauber, which are Haas, which is Aston Martin, and which is Alpine, like these are the lower teams. They're not the big boys. Only the big boys in 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix scored any points. So in that perspective, it kind of looks okay from Haas. And in that perspective, I thought that Haas will be the team that may break the mold. You know what I mean? Like from the beginning of the weekend, it looked like only the big boys will score the points. But I thought that Haas, even though they're not the big boys, although it'll be very difficult for them, but they may be the only team who makes that exception and hang it with the big boys. But it was not them, it was the Racing Bulls. So we'll talk about them when we'll talk about them. But now for Haas, again, they executed the race decent, but in reality they were really nowhere in order to go ahead and score some points. They're basically stuck in DRS trains, and this is something that Oliver Behrman also confirmed. He said that it really doesn't matter how fast the car is, and this is the story for multiple drivers, including Charles Leclerc and Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris and like a few other people. It doesn't really matter how fast the car is. And the Haas was quick. They had good pace. It's just that they're just stuck in the DRS trains. And once you're stuck in a DRS train, it's just very difficult to follow through, particularly the last couple of corners. And if you fuck up the last couple of corners, then it's just really hard to be close enough in the straight to make the slipstream and the DRS work in your favor to make the overtake, unless you have like a massive tire advantage. So that was the story for these two guys. Esteban Ocon, as usual, brings a smile on my face by not scoring any points, but we move on. Kick Sauber and Gabriel Bortoleto. I really had some hopes on him. I thought that he would go ahead and score some points. He looked good in qualifying. I was a little bit surprised that he qualified P13. I thought it'll be like he would just get into Q3, you know what I mean? But in reality, with all of these red flags and shit happening, I'm just happy that he didn't put it in the wall. But either way, the Sauber was a little bit more competitive than other guys, like than their results would show. Obviously, it looks like they were nowhere, but in terms of qualifying, I think just like Haas, they could be the guys who will be on the edge of Q3. Maybe not get in, but like P10, P11. I genuinely thought Gabriel will be like qualifying around that region. Nico Hülkenberg, as usual, does not know how to qualify, especially in 2025. His quali performance is deplorable this entire season. And in Azerbaijan, as we come to find out, overtaking is damn near impossible. Overtaking is also damn near impossible because this is 2025 and it's the last year of all the same technical regulations, and the cars have developed like in a way that they have really been converged, and the entire pack is so tight that if you fuck up on the qualifying, it's really damn near impossible to overtake and make any places up on Sunday. And Nico Hülkenberg made that mistake in qualifying, which seems to be every qualifying session. And on Sunday, obviously overtaking is damn near impossible, so he only made up one place, and that's because Oscar Piastri DNF'd. So that's all I have to say about this guy. But we move on. McLaren, boys. All right, this is the most important thing, so this is probably going to be a little bit long. So first, we're going to talk about Oscar Piastri's performance. Then we will talk about Lando Norris's performance. Then we will talk about the title picture, right? So Oscar Piastri's performance, absolutely disgusting and horrendous. What you need to do is not get desperate and fuck it up, because what Oscar needs to understand while coming into the weekend is that he still has 31 points lead. All you have to do is minimize the damage, and if you get a lead organically over Lando Norris, amazing. If you increase the 31 point deficit to 40 or whatever, it's better. But the goal should be, especially on race weekends or in venues where you are not that quick and cannot find the pace from the car, in those venues, the goal should be damage limitation because you're already 31 points ahead. Now, he came into the weekend and like throughout the practice sessions, Oscar Piastri was sketchy. From the get-go, from FP1, I know like the track time in FP1 was not that horrible for Oscar Piastri, but you have to understand that like he was banging wheels in different parts of the track. Your first goal should aim for like a clean weekend in those type of situations, because the car space means you're definitely going to finish somewhere around like P5, P6, around that at least. That's how quick your car is. So all you have to do is aim for a clean weekend and not put it in the wall, not score 0 points, just score consistently some points around P5. You could have done that. But instead of going for building that clean momentum, he's like, no, let's double down. Let's continue to push. And in every practice session, all the way up to qualifying, he was just touching the walls. He was scratching the car. He was kissing the barriers. Turn 5, turn 15, you name it, Oscar Piastri has done it. And obviously in qualifying, with the wind changing so much, there's little you can do. And if you have been banging wheels here and there in qualifying session where you had the opportunity to settle in by putting in a few laps because it's the practice sessions, in qualifying session, you're obviously going to put it in the wall because you didn't do multiple laps before that and settle into the track. You know what I'm saying? So it was really no surprise to me that Oscar Piastri crashed in qualifying. And again, it was no surprise to me after the start that he had in the race that he got too desperate and he put it in the wall. Now, this is like the thing also that I wanted to talk about okay, everyone has off weekends. I'm not going to go off on Oscar Piastri because I'm still going to cheer for him. And I think still he's the favorite to go ahead and win the World Championship. And I'm going to root for him. But everybody has bad weekends, and I get that aspect. But the thing that I didn't like about what Oscar has said in the post-race interview is that he kind of blamed the dirty air about the crash in the main race. That's the thing I kind of don't like because, okay, there is dirty air, I get that, but you locked up and fucked up. That's the mistake, man. So first, you jump the start, and then you go into anti-stall, and then you fuck up, and you're basically lost now. Now you should, again, it goes back to the thing that I just said a few moments ago, is that when you are P20, when things are not going your way, your goal is just stay out of trouble. From now on, just stay out of trouble and just get into a rhythm and do the best we can. That should be your goal. But instead, Oscar Piastri goes back to P20 at the race start and he's like, I'm going to salvage this. I'm still going to have like a mega lap, and from P20, I'm going to go to like P13 or some shit. Some Charles Leclerc in Abu Dhabi 2024 shit. That didn't happen. And, he got a little bit too desperate. And I was watching Pierre Gasly's onboard. The race director fortunately showed us that was a perfect view. From Pierre Gasly's onboard, we saw Oscar Piastri going around the outside into turn 5 barriers. Boom, no chance, locked up his wheels. He locked up, I think, 3 of his 4 wheels. And then he said that, it was the dirty air, some shit. He blamed it on dirty air, locking up. Now, again, this is the only element that I don't like. I don't care that he scores 0 points, partly because Lando Norris also couldn't maximize the result. We'll talk about Lando when we will talk about Lando, but this is the issue with Oscar Piastri right now, because I think he just took too much stress into him about the title fight situation, even though he has a 31-point lead, instead of thinking that, hey, in Azerbaijan weekend this year, I am not that good as Lando, so my goal should be to just do damage limitation and just continue to focus on having a clean weekend. But instead, I'm going to push like crazy and DNF. So that was a stupid approach. And another thing that was wrong on top of that is not owning up your, huge mistakes in the race where you locked up and hit the wall and blaming it on the dirty air. Maybe there was dirty air. I'm not a race car driver, so I don't know. And neither do you. But, he locked up, dude. It is what it is. You have to call it for what it is. So that was the problem with Oscar Piastri. And now I think going ahead, if he does the same mistakes again, because he got lucky in many ways than one. He got lucky with the fact that Lando Norris didn't have a good qualifying. He got lucky with the fact that overtaking was damn near impossible on this track. He got lucky with the fact that the DRS train nullified the impact of the car's pace. That's not going to happen everywhere. It's probably going to happen in Singapore. It's going to be a boring race in Singapore. But he got lucky. That's why it kind of is, whatever. Oscar Piastri DNF. Nobody's talking that much about it in the title picture because Lando Norris fucked up. So let's talk quickly about Lando Norris. Absolutely horrible qualifying session, and he lied after the qualifying issue. So he went up in qualifying, did a lap. It was horrible. And then he said that I went first. That's why the track was wet. And that's why I suffered. I call bullshit on that. Because right after that, like in those series of run, Max Verstappen was, I think, like 7/10 or like 5/10 faster than him. That's too much of a gap. And also, I mean, I know that it's Max Verstappen, but he just didn't put in a good lap. And I understand that. I'm not going to go ahead and belittle Lando for playing it safe because he just saw his teammate crash into the wall, and Lando Norris also hasn't been particularly clean throughout the weekend. He had the pace advantage over Oscar, like from the beginning of Friday practice sessions, but Lando was also banging wheels and flirting with danger around the streets of Baku. So that was that. But let's not go ahead and say that Lando didn't put in a good lap or didn't qualify better than 7, because he was the first one out on Q3. The final run, like in Q3, is when Lando Norris had that lap. It is not because he went out first of everybody. It's because he was just playing it too cautious. He didn't want to crash, which is, it is what it is. Now, the thing about the race, I think he could have easily been P5 or even better. As a whole, McLaren screwed up Lando's strategy. I think, like, first of all, you could have pitted him a little bit sooner, pitted him during the safety car, because it really doesn't matter. The degradation was low, so you could have experimented a little bit, and the pace advantage was there. And Lando was never in a position of any kind of tire offset to have that advantage. So if you have pitted him early, then maybe in the safety car restart he could have gotten up a couple of position, and maybe he could have dragged that set of old tires, whatever that was, hard tires, towards the end of the race, or maybe just pit him really, really late, like extend the stint as much as you can, like George Russell, and then see what you can do strategy-wise. Obviously, there was no safety car, but going late has its own benefit. George Russell, by going late, went from P5 to P2. So Lando, didn't even do that with the strategy. And then final mistake that McLaren did with Lando is the slow pit stop. I think Lando was pretty quick, but without the slow pit stop, he could have easily been P5. Easy P5 was there. He lost 2 seconds in that pit stop, and 2 seconds means he would have been ahead of Tsunoda, he would have been ahead of Lawson. But I think it was in Lawson's fate that he would have his best career finish. So he had that, and then Lando Norris, his series of slow pit stops continue. I think in Monza, it was the front right wheel gun, and here also it was the front right wheel gun. In Azerbaijan Grand Prix 2025, Lando Norris's slow pit stop was caused by the front right wheel gun guy. But yeah, I think McLaren need to go ahead and train their employees a little bit more and find the bottom of this. And Lando only made up how many points is P7? P7 P10 is 1, P9 is 2, P8 is 4. So 6 points. He made 6 points, which is not that much. It is less than a 1-2. If Norris wins and Oscar is P2, that's a 7-point deficit. But Norris, because of his extreme talent, finished P7 and scored only 6 points. It is what it is. He played it safe. I think 6 points, if you look at what has happened in qualifying, it is kind of positive, but now I'm just fucking around. Lando Norris only made a 6-point deficit, 25 points, doable. Now, if Oscar Piastri fucks up one more race and Lando Norris wins that one, they're dead even on points. It's over. If in Singapore, Oscar Piastri gets too desperate and puts it in the wall and Lando Norris wins, then it's they're going to be dead even on points. Almost. But you know what I mean. So I think there will be dead even on points, right? Because right now the gap is 25 points, if my math is right. So Lando Norris focused on damage limitation after realizing that he's not quick enough in a circuit where the wind is constantly changing. He was banging wheels. He was crashing into the barriers. Not crashing in, but he was touching the barriers here and there in practice sessions and also in qualifying sessions occasionally, brushing it, and therefore he just played it safe in quali, and his race panned out the way it's panned out. McLaren didn't experiment or go with any kind of extreme strategy, played it safe, which I don't think could be the right thing to do, because you were nowhere and maybe taking a risk could have worked out, because you were going to finish P7 or P8 anyways. And then finally the slow pit stop compounded Norris's problem. So what does it mean in the championship perspective? So now we have 7 races remaining, 25 points between the two of them. Lando and Piastri need to first of all lock the fuck in if they want to win the championship, because Max Verstappen is now lurking around. When Verstappen gets a sniff of a win, he's gonna win. And now he is thinking that, okay, I just won the last 2 races. The car feels predictable. And in Singapore, if you just find the right balance, which they will, trust me, Max Verstappen will be on the podium in Singapore. Then forget Lando Norris, forget Oscar Piastri, there could be another Max Verstappen, like another championship for Max Verstappen. So these two guys' comfort must have been wiped out from their minds right now, because Azerbaijan kind of opened their eyes into thinking that, hey, wait a minute, this is how quickly things can change. Like if we have a bad weekend again and Max Verstappen wins, because he's always going to be there to pick up the pieces, he's that consistent. If it happens again, then the fight is on. It's going to be the title fight will be tighter than you think. And in crazy races coming like Brazil is always crazy because of the weather. Then there is Vegas, where it's a Mercedes track, and on that track it's all about damage limitation. And then on Mexico, that's a Red Bull track. So there are a lot of tracks in which Max Verstappen is going to be simply dominant. And then in Abu Dhabi, Max Verstappen is pretty good, but so is Lando Norris. But we will see about that. But the point is, Azerbaijan opened the eyes of these two lads, and now they're like, holy fuck, now we have to fight Max Verstappen. And that's a problem now. And Oscar Piastri, who did a lot of mistakes, and Lando Norris, who couldn't capitalize on this opportunity. I mean, I would say Max Verstappen title is a little bit far-fetched, but at the same time, Oscar Piastri's lead, if he has one more weekend like this, it's game over. It's game over. I mean, he got lucky, really lucky, Oscar Piastri. Lady luck was on your side. But I don't think it's going to happen all the time. It is what it is. We move on. We'll see what happens in Singapore. I think Lando Norris definitely has a good chance, especially in quali. But at the same time, Max Verstappen is feeling more and more confident in the car. So you never know. We move on. Ferrari. Now, the first thing I want to say about these two guys is that they actually have what happened. A bit of technical issues because I got signed out. Anyway, Ferrari actually had a good race. I mean, they had a good result. Now, so far, I have been explaining a few things about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in general, and the story of the entire race is the pace doesn't matter, because if you're stuck in a DRS train, you cannot really pass. Even if there is a huge straight, the twisting and bending sections make it really difficult to follow, and if you factor that in, then Ferrari did a okay job. I mean, obviously the massive amount of damage has been done in the qualifying session in Saturday. For Lewis Hamilton, they sent him out on, the soft tires, the right tires were the mediums, and that's why he got screwed. And then Charles Leclerc put it in the wall, and, that is that. That's Baku traditions for Charles. So it is what it is. So most of the mistakes that these motherfuckers have made, it was done on Friday. The whole team, I mean. The team's mistake was done on Saturday, not Friday. Then on Sunday, it's just a consequence of that mistake, but they did manage to go ahead. Now, Charles Leclerc, there's really nothing much he could have done. And hats off to Liam Lawson for defending against Charles Leclerc. And then, like earlier, Liam defended against Antonelli, then it was against Charles, and then it was like Antonelli for a bit again, then he got passed by Antonelli. And then finally, he defended against Yuki Tsunoda, that we will talk about. So Charles Leclerc is one of the many victims of Liam Lawson today. And it is what it is, man. Shit happens in this type of a track, and another track is Monaco. Like that, there's really nothing much you can do. And the same goes for Lewis Hamilton. He was quick. Yes, in the post-race interview, he said that the pace was not there compared to the others. Maybe he was not feeling that. But that doesn't mean that these guys didn't have. Like, they had good pace. But the thing is, around Baku, it really doesn't matter. I think the last 15 laps, Hamilton was just in the DRS train, stuck. There's nothing you could do. Liam Lawson behind him, Yuki behind him, Norris, and behind him, Lewis. There's literally nothing Lewis could have done. So towards the end of the race, he actually had some good pace. But by that time, he just lost too much ground to the front runners, and he was in the middle of, like, not in the middle, he was at the end of a DRS train. So that's even fucking horrible. There's nothing much you can do. Like, I was like saying these things in a live stream as this were happening. I'm like, this is where Ferrari are gonna finish. But it was a good enough result. I was very disappointed and pissed on Saturday, but I was hoping that Lewis Hamilton will have one of those amazing drives in which he will, go ahead and finish on the podium or some shit. And I really wanted a Ferrari podium featuring Lewis Hamilton, but that was like really too good to be true and too delusional of me. I don't know why I do that, especially when it comes to Ferrari, but it is what it is. We move on. Yeah, but one thing I want to say about this, guys, before moving on, is that in the constructors, now they got some work to do. Singapore is a Ferrari track. They need to maximize the results, because after that, like, Mercedes are going to be strong, especially in Vegas. They're probably going to win. In Abu Dhabi, Ferrari last year had a good result, but so did Mercedes. And United States and Brazil, like, those two tracks typically suit the Mercedes more compared to the Ferrari, because those are a little bit technical tracks. So Ferrari definitely needs to maximize the results in Singapore, because that's like kind of one of their tracks. We move on. Racing Bulls. Now, earlier, a few race weekends ago, I think in Zandvoort, I said that the time that the Racing Bull is faster than the Red Bull has come. But now, the next two races after that, things have been changed. And I think now the Red Bull is actually a front-running car, and the Racing Bulls is actually the front runner in the midfield. The first thing I want to say is Liam Lawson's defensive performance is through the fucking roof. And I said this shit during the qualifying session, and also like during the qualifying live stream, and also during the race live stream. The thing about Liam Lawson is that he doesn't know how to qualify, but he really knows how to fight. He knows how to, like elbows out defense and dangerous attacks, a move that is like only half there. He's gonna go ahead and stick a nose in. These type of things Liam Lawson is capable of doing. He has the balls to go ahead and do that. On the other side of the garage, we have Isaac Hadjar, who is phenomenal in qualifying, but the problem is he doesn't know how to pick it up in the race. We'll go step by step. So Liam Lawson, first he defended against Kimi Antonelli for multiple laps. This led to Mercedes doing the team orders. And then they get Kimi Antonelli into the pits. George Russell has a go. George Russell also could overtake Liam Lawson. And this is where the Racing Bulls made a mistake, is that they called Liam Lawson to pit. And like that's where George Russell extended his stint and eventually finished P2. And this is where Liam Lawson lost the position to George Russell as well, because George Russell was on the hard tires and he managed to extend it. The entire track was like a low deck track, and cooler temperatures also suited Mercedes, and they were able to manage their tires a little bit better compared to others. But I think the Racing Bulls should have kept Liam Lawson out for a few more extra laps, 5 laps. He could have done that. He could have defended against George Russell in those tires because, like I said, it's low tech, and I think his medium tires still had some life in them. So they should have, like, they made a mistake of calling him in after that, and then right after that, he gets out of the pits, and he gets right ahead of Kimi Antonelli, who is on, I think, 1 lap warmer tire or something by this time, or like a few laps of warm tires. And then Liam Lawson on cold tires couldn't defend against him, and he loses the position. Like after trying to, like on the same lap, I think he loses that position. And then after that, after Kimi Antonelli goes off into the distance, then Liam Lawson, now he's in P5 because George Russell is yet to pit. And by the time George Russell pits, Liam Lawson is, too far behind because Russell actually goes ahead and makes that time. And Liam, just from then on, it's his own defensive masterclass. So he defends massively against Yuki Tsunoda, actually. So Yuki Tsunoda pits. Red Bull do a great job of pitting Yuki Tsunoda at the right time, and Yuki actually got out ahead of Liam Lawson in the race. And now in the race, Liam Lawson, he does the same thing that Kimi Antonelli did to him. So Kimi Antonelli was on warmer tires when he overtook Liam Lawson, who got out of the pits in cold tires, and Liam Lawson this time had warm tires, the tire advantage over Yuki Tsunoda ahead of him, who just got out of pits with cold tires. So he overtakes the Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda, which is like always fun to watch, and then he just defends that place for like the last 15 laps or so. Phenomenal defensive driving, didn't put a foot wrong, perfect execution, perfect lap after perfect lap. He was never under pressure, he was under pressure, but he never really let that pressure get to him and convert it into a mistake. So phenomenal performance by Liam Lawson. All the memes on him should stop now. The man has proven himself. He has proven himself beyond a doubt that he belongs in Formula 1. And obviously the initial part of the season with the Red Bull experience, and then he came back to Racing Bulls, and then he had a string of bad luck. And from Monaco, I think his luck started to change a little bit. But Liam Lawson, this boy can drive. And Azerbaijan's qualifying was a little bit weird, but still I would like to give him the credit for P3 qualification. And if he continues this kind of qualifying performance, then I think I really don't think any other midfield team can beat RB in the constructor standings. Now, on the other side, Isaac Hadjar. A thing that I like about Isaac Hadjar is that the 2 positions that he lost were the 2 positions to 2 Ferraris, which is okay, whatever, right? He started ahead of 1 Ferrari, I think, but then if you consider the DNF of Oscar Piastri, then, it all makes sense. So P8, started P8, finished P10. Pretty good. I think the only 2 people who overtook him were the Ferraris. And one thing that he said in the post-race interview is that he didn't feel that confident in the car. And the happy thing is that, the positive that he could take away from this is that even though he didn't feel as confident in the car as he usually does in most race weekends, he still got a point. So that's the positive. And one of the interesting thing is that Racing Bulls, they are a midfield team who grabbed double points amid big boys. Because if you look at the top 10, everybody else are the big boys. It's the 2 Ferraris, 1 McLaren, then there's both of the Red Bulls are in the points. So like all the big boys. And the only little guys who got double points finished is Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, and obviously the anomaly of Carlos Sainz. We got to consider that as well. Really phenomenal race. And if you look at the top 10, I think most of the drivers are from the Red Bull family, because Max Verstappen is from Red Bull. Then you got Carlos Sainz, who is also from Red Bull family. Then these 2 motherfuckers are from Red Bull. Then you got Yuki Tsunoda. There are a lot of the drivers from Red Bull family in the top 10. Phenomenal talent nurturing strategy Red Bull has. But RB looking like a strong team in the midfield. Their only problem is going to be Williams, but Williams are kind of like in their no man's land. They are kind of coasting. So I think RB is going to be the best of the rest come the end of the season, because Liam Lawson needed to just fix his qualifying problems, because the race skill is there. All the memes about this man should stop immediately. But now it seems that his qualifying form is good. We'll see in Singapore and see what happens. We move on. The Williams boys. Contrasting fates of these two guys. But the thing is, like, here's the interesting thing. There's nothing much to talk about them. Like, really, if you think about Carlos Sainz, I mean, yeah, he started P2, finished P3, managed his stint, got undercut by George Russell. Russell extended his stint, and, that's that. There's really nothing much happening with Carlos Sainz. And then Alexander Albon. Actually, there is more to talk about Alex Albon than about Carlos Sainz. Obviously, like, Carlos Sainz's achievement is important in the context of Formula 1 and his journey as a driver, and the journey of Williams Formula 1 team as a whole. But if you talk about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, there's really nothing much to talk about. I mean, obviously, I was gunning for a Carlos Sainz podium. From the start of my live stream, I fucking said that this is going to be the tone. Obviously, nobody watched it live because, it's a small channel. But the point that I'm trying to make is his achievement, even though very impressive, the race was kind of uneventful. But Alexander Albon's race was more fun to watch. So he started last, then had a contact with Colapinto, got a 10-second penalty, accepted his mistake, and that's the most important thing, something that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris need to learn. Accept mistakes. Oscar Piastri said that the dirty, turbulent air led to the crash in the race. That's not true. He locked up and he fucked up. But anyway, Alexander Albon, he has bigger balls, and he accepted the truth that it's his mistake in the Colapinto crash, and it is what it is. But Williams, man, phenomenal job. And if they start to stick in weekends in which both of the drivers don't have bad luck, they will be a force to reckon with. I think they're easily they're obviously the fifth fastest team right now in the constructor standings if you go by points, but I think they can definitely do better. They can punch way above their weight. They need to get their execution part right, not do too many mistakes. I have burped like 3 times. But anyway, we move on. There's nothing much to say. Mercedes-Benz Formula 1 team. Now, this is a critical result for them, and that's the only thing that we're going to talk about now, is that Kimi Antonelli, who was under a lot of pressure because he got a penalty in Zandvoort for crashing into Charles Leclerc, and then he got a penalty in Monza by obstructing Alexander Albon and also fucking up the race start in Monza. So there was a lot of pressure on Kimi Antonelli. He delivered. Big shout out to him. The talent is there 100%, but he needs to not get that much pressure. And in the Q3 session, I think it was the 5th red flag of the entire qualifying session. In the Q3, Pete Bonington, his race engineer, Antonelli's race engineer, he tells him on the radio that, hey man, you gotta chill. You gotta stop stressing. There's 6 minutes on the clock, like it was 6.5 minutes. All you need to do is just put one clean lap. That's all you need to do. And Kimi says yeah, okay, whatever. So the underlying thing that I took away from this is that Kimi Antonelli is his own biggest enemy. Like most men in general, like most men are their own biggest enemies. We suffer in imagination more than we suffer in reality. So he needs to get out of his own fucking way and allow the maturity and allow the calmness and allow the moment to come to him rather than seeking the moment. You know what I mean? Like in life, we all want big moments, but all we can do is just prepare for the moment and just wait for the moment to arrive to us and then do whatever. And once the moment comes, you have to perform, obviously, and maximize it. But in the sense of the arrival of the moment, the good results, the big thing, the results, and the victory or whatever it is, the success, you cannot really chase it. All you have to do is just prepare and wait for it. And that's what Kimi Antonelli needs to do in his approach with Formula One. Good results like race wins and multiple podiums and great performances, amazing comeback drives, they will all come. But you need to just be prepared for that. Just study, get the hang of the car, fuck school, stop thinking about college. After the race is done, go on the sim, do like 100 laps or something, like race against other people in iRacing, do some sim racing stuff, and like you will be much, much better. That's what Kimi needs to do, because that's the only thing you can control, and you cannot force a good result just by, like stressing yourself up. Your body is going to get cramped up that way. That's not a good thing. Anyway, Osama bin Russell, what a phenomenal drive, P5 to P2, and he was sick this weekend. He was sick, he was not feeling that good, under the weather, but still delivered when it mattered. So Mercedes, now they're 4 points ahead of Ferrari in the constructor standings. Thanks to these two guys, great result. Mercedes are back. And now if they continue to build this momentum, like the next race is going to be weak for them in Singapore. I don't think they're going to be that good. They have traditionally struggled in that track. But with so far, like whatever happened this season, that there have been plenty of crazy races and weird podiums. So again, if there are crashes and crazy qualifying sessions, then anything can happen. And in those situations, George Russell will be there to pick up the pieces. So I guess we'll see like what happens. We move on. Red Bull Racing. Earlier, I used to call them Verstappen.com Racing, but now, thanks to Yuki Tsunoda's new pace and performance, they're back at the top. So first, we need to go ahead and give some praise to Max Verstappen. I think he got a grand slam in the Red Bull RB21. We all know that the Red Bull RB21 is kind of like a tractor, and in that tractor, Max Verstappen is breaking records, getting grand slams. Pole, leads every lap, fastest lap, like just dominant victory. 14 seconds over P2. Monza was 19 seconds over the McLarens. So in Singapore, he's definitely on podium. I guarantee that's you. Because traditionally Red Bull have been good at like around Singapore. It's traditionally a Red Bull and a Ferrari track. And right now Max Verstappen seems to believe that he can go ahead and still has a chance to win the world title. It's not over until it's over. Obviously, a lot of things need to happen. For example, the McLaren drivers need to crash with each other a couple of times to give Max Verstappen the opportunity to close the gap. That needs to happen. But at the same time, there is a real possibility that Max Verstappen can finish P2 in the championship at least. At least P2 is possible. Okay, winning the World Championship, 69 races, 7 races to go. There are a few sprint races, but I think there are a couple of sprint races remaining. Overall, Max Verstappen can go ahead mathematically and win the championship, but realistically, I would say he can finish P2. Like that's like truly gonna happen. P1 in the championship standings, too far-fetched. P2 in the championship standings by beating Lando Norris, definitely possible. So if that happens, because Max is the guy who can do that. And right now, with the new pace and the new balance, and big thanks to Laurent Mekies for bringing the team together from a technical perspective, I think it is possible. I think they can do it. And Yuki Tsunoda right now is also finding pace in the car. And in the post-race interview, he said that I found some things this weekend. He did not reveal what it is. And he said that now I'm more confident that going forward, I will be more consistent in my performance and I will bring results, like better results in the upcoming races. He said that. And Yuki's race, and he could have finished P5. The only drivers ahead of him would be Carlos Sainz because he started so far ahead, and also the two Mercedes because they were fast too. He could have finished P5, but I think Liam Lawson's warm tires caught Yuki by surprise, and unfortunately overtaking in Baku 2025 is damn near impossible. It doesn't really matter how fast your car is. because the like before the straight begins, the start finish straight, the last two corners, you will lose so much because of the turbulence and the wind and everything that it's impossible to make any kind of overtake. So Yuki just got stuck and he tried to get around Liam Lawson. He definitely did. But the Racing Bull, like surprisingly, had very good straight line speed. So that was insane. But now Red Bull are looking like a good team. I genuinely hope that like for the next few Grand Prix, Yuki Tsunoda continues to score points, because then I want to see how the driver market evolves, because Erwin Lindblad is definitely not ready. He is promising, but he's way too rough around the edges. He's way too much of a flight risk. He's not ready for Formula 1. If possible, let's give Yuki Tsunoda 1 year extension. I have been against Yuki Tsunoda a lot in this channel. You can go ahead and dig those videos out. But now I think that Yuki Tsunoda is starting to learn his ropes. Still too early to say. I will not say to go ahead and give him a contract yet. Let's wait for, Helmut Marko said they need to wait until Mexico. I said maybe even later than that, like until Qatar. Let's wait until Qatar and see if Yuki Tsunoda can maintain this consistency. It seems like Laurent Mekies is doing a good enough job to make both of the drivers confident in the car and extract good results. Christian Horner should have been fired sooner. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.